Yesterday, Justin Fields was a full participant in practice. Andy Dalton, a limited participant. Here's Matt Nagy talking about Fields' first start. Take a listen.
He's going to have a lot of different games in his career, and that one was a rough one, and I put that on me. That's on me for why that went that way, and I got to learn from that, and we got to learn from that. But I think we have some answers, which is good.
Did you decide who's going to be the play caller on Sunday?
We've had some amazing, healthy conversations between coaches and coaches, between coaches and players. I want to keep that internal. The criticism's fair. I go back to the game. You got to move on, but you also got to accept it. That's what I'm going to do moving forward.
Well, look, you want to be an NFL head coach. You're going to have weeks like this, and Matt Nagy is certainly having that week. Lewis, you know him well. What is your reaction to what we saw last week and where it goes from here?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, starting with Matt, I think he knows that there are things that maybe he overestimated, didn't put enough of a spotlight on, and things during before the game even started, as far as what Justin's comfort level was, what he was going to be able to handle from a responsibility standpoint at the line of scrimmage in that game, and then how he was able to adjust and get them in rhythm once they got into the game. He knows that there are ways in which he did not get it done in that regard, and as he said, he's going to have to learn from that, and he's going to have to be much better with that. Number two, look, I also know why he didn't want to play it. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that this offensive line, as you saw in that game, look, when you call three-step drop and your quarterback on the third step is getting his face smashed, that isn't play calling. That's just called, I don't have people up front right now who can get it done. And we know, as far as protecting young quarterbacks, that's really where it all starts, with them up front. And this team, it's just not set up right. It's just not. For a young quarterback, he needs to really, as far as he's concerned, he needs to stay on the bench and really sit and learn. And then number three, look, Justin just needs more time. He just does. That does not mean that he is not going to be a great quarterback, because they still believe he's going to be a great quarterback. But he needs more time. He will benefit from sitting behind Andy Dalton or whoever else they decide to put out there, Nick Foles, if they trot him out there next. But look, there's a lot of things that are going wrong up there right now. It starts with the head coach. It kind of filters to the offensive line. Justin has some responsibility in it, and it's something they're going to have to dig themselves out of. But this is just not a good situation right now.
D-Wood, you have a skeptical look.
Well, I mean, listen, Greeny, we know how last week went here on Get Up. My brother Lewis, Riddick was, we were kind of going toe-to-toe a little bit. And the fact that, I mentioned Nick Foles, everything just blew up. It just blew up talking about Nick Foles because of the fact that, his man, Matt Nagy, was, had basically said, listen, he's not ready to take the reins yet. And so my rationale, if that's not the case, why not play Nick Foles? Why not start Nick Foles? He's making all this money.
Not disagreeing.
He's on the roster, and Al got shotted down last week. Got shotted down.
What do you mean?
But my man Lou Riddick got shotted down. And look what happened on the film. Look what happened on the film. 9 sacks.
I'm not disagreeing that Nick Foles should have played. I'm not disagreeing with you about that, especially how this offense typically is run, as far as the responsibility that's being put on the quarterback to kind of protect himself through protection calls and protection adjustments. Yeah, Nick is much better suited to do that at this point in time in his career than Justin Fields. So I'm not disagreeing with you about that at all. I'm really not. What I am disagreeing about was this. Look, there has been a groundswell of support for Justin Fields, and justifiably so. Look, he's a tremendous talent. We all know that. There's been a groundswell of support and a big push to get him out on the field. Let him learn. Let him take his lumps. He needs to learn. He needs to be out there, okay? But you see, like right now, there's some intel that they have about him, and there's a reason why they were reluctant to put him out there. One, because they didn't feel as though he was ready. Two, they didn't feel as though the offensive line was really ready enough, to a degree, to protect him well enough. And you know what? Three, I will say this, and when wrapping those first two things up, they did make a mistake in putting him out there. But you know what? They were victims of their own ambition of wanting to see what they had in him. They also listened to all the criticism and all the heat that's coming down saying, look, you need to play the kid. You need to put him out there. They're human beings too, and they made a miscalculation on that part too. They shouldn't be listening to all the outside noise. They shouldn't be listening to us saying, put him out there, put him out there. The Chicago media saying, put him out there. He needs to learn. Because this team isn't ready to support him. He's not ready yet. And they should have put Nick Foles out there. So, look, I'm not disagreeing with you in that regard. What I said was this. You just don't want the same thing to happen to him that potentially it's being talked about that could be happening to Zach Wilson in New York. And that is, you don't want guys being ruined because they're just getting their confidence stripped away from them. That's what I said.
All right, no, now we've taken it a step too far. I don't know why we have to bring me into all of this.
Lewis, what? You're not a very good team, and that's what the Kansas City Chiefs are right now.
Lewis, let me ask you again. They're 1-2, and they were somewhat fortunate, to say the least, to win that one game against Cleveland with the mistakes the Browns make. I mean, when we say are there concerns about the Chiefs, we understand that's relative. No one's sitting here thinking are they going to wind up 3-14. But based upon their own standards and expectations, are there concerns?
Yeah, there's concerns. Look, I think, and there's different levels of concern whether you're talking about the offense or defense. Look, I think offensively they're going to be fine. Patrick Mahomes is just going to have to make sure that he gets things going as far as not turning the football over. But I think on the defensive side is where the issues really are. Look, if you take it from back to front, the secondary got exposed against the Chargers. I think when you're talking about them going up against high-powered offenses, do they have enough coverage people to deal with the top receiving cores in the NFL one-on-one down the field? Mike Williams says no. Keenan Allen says no. You don't have enough to deal with us in your own division. Then they can't rush the passer with effectiveness right now and really put quarterbacks under duress. And lastly, but maybe most importantly, when teams decide to just line up and punch them in the mouth and run the football, they have no answer for that either. So that's taking it from back to front. Really, it starts from front to back. However you want to look at it, whatever order you want to put on it, though, they've got issues on that side of the football, and they better get them squared away some way, shape, or how. Otherwise, this offense, which I think will get on the right track, is just going to go to waste, and they're not going to be able to get back to the level that they want to.
Bart, I've had people on the show here this week tell me that they're a team that sort of thinks they can flip the switch on anytime they want to, and maybe they're finding out that doesn't work that way.
Well, like it's the same thing, make you laugh, make you cry, right? And you got to think that success isn't owned, it's leased. And every day that work has to be put, it has to be done. And, you know, you talk about Mahomes and no-look passes and things of that sort. Usually those are things we see that his guys come down with. But just this year, you know, the football guys have said, oh, well, this one's going to be tipped, and turnovers and tip balls change games. And you talk about they're not able to protect themselves because defensively they can't stand up for themselves, right? So you think about them not being able to get, you know, meaningful stops, field position, but also this offensive line trying to come together. We know the names are legit. We talk about Tooney. We talk about going out and making a trade for Orlando Brown Jr. But like D. Wood says all the time, you know, offensive line is about chemistry, cohesion, understanding that nonverbal communication, seeing fronts and blitzes the same way. I think they're struggling with that right now to come together as a unit, and I think it's putting duress on Mahomes and getting him off his spot and got him running for his life, something we're not accustomed to seeing him do.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that as well. I mean, when you got basically a whole new starting five and they're starting to play together right now, it's going to take time for them to come together.
Sometimes it's the not so sexy stuff that winds up being the problem, and that may be the problem in Kansas City. I like that phrase. I wrote it down. Success is not owned, it's leased. Meanwhile, let's go on the clock. 30 seconds each here with a couple of different topics. D. Wood, 30 seconds. Which team needs a win the most in this week 4?
I'm going with the Giants. Listen, the block is the block is scorching in New York City right now. We all live here and we hear it all the time. And the Giants went out there and they went out and acquired all these different pieces. You know, this was a crucial year for Daniel Jones, albeit Daniel Jones is actually playing some pretty good football. Yeah. But together as a team, this team right now, they need a win in the worst way in the biggest media market.
They are at New Orleans this week in a 1 o'clock Eastern time start on Sunday. Bart, give us a team that you could see surprising us all in this week 4. 30 seconds.
Oh, for me, it's definitely the Vikings. They should have beat the Cardinals Arizona, the other day. I think, you know, you think about Cook, and I know he didn't really play this week.